Mac
Right.
should have scrollable menu
Right,
bars.
so go,
Anyway.
action.
Okay. We do one other thing. Here, this. No, you don't want to see that. There. Okay.
Right, so
Great.
Jason Grout, the state of the notebook.
Great.
Great.
I feel honored to be giving a state of the something address. This is going to be somewhat informal, and I call for comments from the peanut gallery, particularly like this peanut gallery right here, especially as we talk about where the notebook has been. But just to give you an idea, since last year, how wide is this camera? It goes screen to screen?
No.
Just this screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So since last year, July or June 2011, there's been some big work with the notebook, and these are the stats from sagemb.org. It covers not just sagemb.org, but all of the sagemb.org servers on Google Analytics. So you can see these are the daily stats. The dark blue is the number of visits. The light blue is in the page views. This is the scale for the number of visits. So we're getting roughly 1,500 to 2,000 or so visits per day. And this, you don't see it. Let's see. Oh, do you see that? It goes off the side of your screen. Here, let me change my resolution. Apparently this resolution doesn't work here. It goes off the side of your screen, but it does not.
Changing the resolution. We should start over.
Okay. Yeah, so
the screen
apparently
has
you
to be-
don't see half my screen. Okay.
Wait,
So,
are you sure that?
Try 1,000.
Are you sure we don't? I think that we may see the screen. We just don't see part of your browser. I think you just need to push the big button. Are you literally seeing way more on your?
look, I see 10,000 as a scale over here, and like the end of the date and things like that. Yeah. Oh, how much
All you have to do is
is it?
resize your browser a little.
Oh, yeah. Let's just do that. You're brilliant, William. Okay, there we are. Okay. So this is the scale for the page views right here. So we're getting between 10 and 20,000 page views, like 12 or 13,000 page views per day. And you can see the cycle goes down during the winter break and comes back up. What this means is that we are roughly getting, if I change this to be about the last month or so, and look at hourly, we're getting about between, well, you can see here this scale is 70 to 140 visits per hour. So it seems like we're scaling up to somewhere between 150, and sometimes if you go back a little bit further, it goes up to about 200 visits per hour. So it's pretty popular. A lot of people are using it, but it's also showing some difficulties in scaling that we hope to address. But before we talk about sort of what got us to this point, let me go back just a little bit, because I think this might be one of the first state of the notebooks types of addresses. And I'll talk about what the code development looked like in the Sage notebook. So if you go back to the original repository, this is May of 2006. And the way to read this is everything between here, and these indicate months since the start of 2006. So this is 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. If you're bored, I give you a challenge of making it easy to do plots in Sage, whereas the x-axis are dates instead of numbers. Okay, so what we see here is that there was an initial, in the first couple of months, this must have been your couple of students that were working with you. And then a lot of interest in 2007. And then, was that Sage
Yeah,
Days? Okay, so this is where I'm calling for
Sage Days
comments.
is 1 week later.
Oh wow, so 1,000, this is sort of an adjusted commit score. So what this represents is each one unit represents touching a file in a commit, where I factored out some of the big renames and some of the big, like, extracting JS math with thousands of files, etc. So sort of taking out some of the obvious, they shouldn't count as, I feel like a huge amount of thought into it. We have commit per file is 1 unit on the y-axis here. So you see, yeah, a huge amount of development in 2007. It peters out, and not very much happens in 2008. or 2009 until about September 2009, and this is when William breaks Sage Notebook off and makes a Sage NVS package and rewrites the file storage backend, etc. This is about September 2009.
What about Interact?
Oh, that might have been around then too. Yeah, I forget. Let's see. Interacts would have been, I think, in 2009 actually.
Yeah.
So this probably includes Interacts as well. But then quickly interest drops off, and you see in 2010 almost nothing happens with the Sage Notebook. 2011 interest starts coming back up again, and rewriting the Flask Notebook, and then here we have it. But of course, let's do this a little more fun way here. So, okay, hold on a second. Let's see. All right, so what this represents, oh, you don't see anything. Okay, did you see anything before? Yeah. Okay, so let's not run it full screen here. Okay, so here's William. Here's William and his students playing around in 2006, and you see, so what's happening is, flashing out, each one of these dots represents a file, and, zapping the file represents a commit that got to the file, and you can see the directories here. And so in 2007, there's a little bit more activity. You can see people are pretty excited and working on it. You see some of the names that we recognize flashing around here, Tom Boothby, etc., and somewhere in here, etc. So in 2007, there's quite a bit happening. We get towards the end of 2007, though, and people sort of pull away. You see a lot of people sort of drift off, and not much happening in 2008. So still some stuff happening, though. As we go through 2008, there's that little part in the graph here. And that's probably some of these names.
Sage Notebook was part of the Sage Library 3.
That's right. So what happens? Yeah, exactly. So this is all part of the Sage library here. And in fact, this Sage server directory is still in the Sage library. And then we get around September, and you'll notice something happens. William splits it off into a completely new library. So what I'm going to do is stop here, because what happens here is that this code over here, the Sage server directory, just sort of falls into disuse and disrepair. In fact, it's still there, and there's some patches for that. In fact, a lot of it's broken in the notebook. And this new code base down here represents the Sage NV repository.
The only reason that directory is there is for importing all notebook servers.
Right.
And it's perfectly unbroken for that.
That's true. Very good. Very good point. Very good point.
It's not supposed to do anything else.
Yeah. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to back up just to that place where William split things off, and that'll sort of ignore this part up here and just concentrate on this part down here. And so we see again in 2009, there's been a lot of work. William rewrote the backend to give us a file storage, etc. And people started working on it, but then, as we saw in the graph, it bumps up the scalability a little bit, and people just sort of ignore it for a while. I think that was translation that happened just there. It flashed everything. And so this happens until January 2011. So in January 2011, we have one of our first modern Sage days. And in this Sage days, Mike Hansen introduces the Flask notebook. So he rewrites things in Flask, and we'll see some things happening at the Sage days here. And then March, there was another Sage days. And then another big Sage days happens last June. So you see a lot of activity happening here. And so last June, what happened is that the Flask notebook was sort of made a lot better, and William and Mike worked a lot on the scalability, and then things were sort of left to be able. There was a lot of functionality that still wasn't in the Flask notebook, and a lot of bugs still in the Flask notebook. So Rado Kirov, who's probably somewhere here, he's the guy zapping everything, I think. Let's see, yeah, Rado Kirov, who now works at Google, took it on himself to fix the Sage notebook. And he did this until fix the Flask notebook and bring it up to speed until about November. And then I came into the picture here and sort of took over from Rado when he started joining Google. And then you've seen a number of other people in the Sage notebook. Recently, here's Samuel there, bouncing around. And his back is So that's sort of where we're at right now with the Sage Notebook. A lot of exciting developments happening right now. The question is, who's going to take over it now, or is it just going to fall into disrepair? All right. So what needs to be done still? What problems have I seen? I've taken over administering the SageMD.org server for the last 6 months or so. And there are still some problems with the new Sage Notebook, even though the new Sage Notebook is going into Sage, hopefully. It's been positively reviewed, and it's in 5.2 Alpha 0. One problem we still have is that worker processes aren't being killed, and so periodically need to restart SageMD.org because it doesn't correctly clean up after worker processes. Sometimes new worksheets, every now and then if you go on SageMD.org and hit new worksheet, it'll pull up one of the last few worksheets that you did instead of an actual new worksheet. So there's some sort of counter problem, something going on where it's not picking up it's not picking the right ID for a brand new worksheet instead of giving you an old ID. And another problem that we've run into scalability-wise is the _sage_ worksheets. These are the worksheets that are created when you do live doc previews. Those aren't deleted or cleaned up in any way, and every time anybody clicks on a live doc, it creates one of these worksheets, and so we end up getting hundreds of megabytes of these worksheets, and you only use them once when we look at the live doc one time. So these are 3 things I think can be cleaned up possibly after the new Sage Notebook gets into Sage. They're really more scalability issues than personal server issues. But those are 3 things I think that could be done. And I think, so everyone saw Samuel's presentation. That's sort of the cutting edge of the Sage Notebook, I think, some of the stuff that he's doing. It seems like there are several other people. Keshav has been working on it quite a bit lately. Well, he's been taking over generating the S package. Right now, we are in 5.2 Alpha 0 with everything positively merged or positively reviewed, except for a few documentation things that need to be reviewed still. So hopefully the new Sage Notebook will be in 5.2. And any questions?
Is that the 5.2 version of MathJax?
Good question. Yes, so MathJax is another area that we've sort of put off. There was a huge amount of effort put into it last year by you and some other people. We put it off to try to get the bugs worked out and what we had. That 5.2 does not include MathJax. Apparently Samuel's been working with MathJax. I haven't looked at... He does have it working. Is he using the patches from the track? That's really odd because you should have to... Okay, you should... But he did patch the Sage library, right? Okay, so there's going to be some major problems, I think.
It looked ugly.
Yeah,
During
I
this
think...
presentation,
Okay.
MathJax looked ugly.
I don't know. I didn't see that part of the presentation. But there's a huge number of places in the Sage library that use JS Math and depend on JS Math. So,
I don't think you took out JS Math.
Okay.
Probably
So,
coming from removing JS Math. Well,
Right.
I don't think he's done that yet.
okay. So we had it pretty much working last year, but the patches probably need to be rebased. I don't think anybody's seriously looked at them except for Samuel, and it seems like one other person was starting to rebase them.
I think Buster was.
Okay.
David was supposed to come, he's not. I don't know if I took his name off the list.
Okay. So I think that's like the next high priority project right after the new Sage Notebook gets in is to move things over to MathJax. Other questions about where we are or where we're going?
So what Samuel is doing looks totally different.
Right.
From scratch.
Well,
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 He-
we've written a lot of the JavaScript and CSS.
yes. Right, and I think he's doing things that are the right direction for us to go. Like a lot of that JavaScript code was written in the original web era by Tom Boothby, who was a real man web developer, and did everything that he had to do in that era in order to get things to work fast and efficiently.
Currently, jQuery didn't exist.
Yeah, things like that.
We
So
started before jQuery.
Tom himself is like,
What?
if I was rewriting it today, it would be different.
So should people be working on top of what Samuel is doing or working on top of what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. If they're doing JavaScript stuff, I think we ought to review Samuel stuff. It's a matter of like reviewing the work that people are doing. Um, it looks like I haven't looked carefully at Samuel stuff, so I think we ought to look at it and start reviewing it. If it's not JavaScript, then it probably will go just as well on either. I don't think Samuel's touching the actual notebook classes very much. Anyway, okay, so at this stage, one of the states of the notebook is there's a huge amount of work being done by Samuel that someone needs to look at and review. Other questions? Okay. That was a short talk.
Can you give a similar talk for the Sage Cell server
Yes.
right now?
Now?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, it'll be a little more off the cuff. I don't have cool videos. So last year we had the Sage Cell server. So for those of you that there's the other public Sage Cell server. It's a Common App people. ALF? What? Yeah. ALF.sagemath.org. So the idea is you can type in code and it evaluates out. Yeah, you don't even have to say print, right? You can just do 1 plus 2. And a lot of our focus has been on embedding this into any web page. So, yes. So, for example, here's Rob Beezer's web page. Broke?
Like
It can't be broken.
Yeah.
Because there was Robert Bradshaw ran a process on the server, jam.math, and somehow it caused all Sage processes to terminate with a sig plus immediately.
Anyway, so you can embed this in any web page. You can create links to Sage computations. So, for example, that 1 plus 2, if my daughter, 5-year-old daughter, was listening, it's 1 plus 2, and I could say, well, go to this web link, and it will calculate it for you. So I've used this in class not for 1 plus 2, but for like Calc 3, they're reading in the textbook, and then off to the side there's a Sage permalink to draw the graph or illustrate whatever they were reading about. And a lot of students used it, and they said it was really good.
You should generate permalinks as QR codes.
We could. That would be easy. That's a really good point. Yeah, so
Have a link that will copy the image.
great. Submit a feature request, or even better, a pull request. Some people have gotten really excited about this. WebWork people have gotten really excited. John Travis will be here tomorrow. Has been integrating this into WebWork problems. Another group of people that's gotten really excited about it is David Smith and Langmore, I think. Yeah, Smith and Moore, who have written a calculus textbook that's a low-cost calculus textbook that's been published by the MAA for a long time now. They have an online version, and now they are converting it totally over to using Sage Cells to do all the interactive questions and things. So they used to do a bunch of stuff with Mathematica, Maple code, and all sorts of stuff, but now they have a requirement or incentive at least to release an iPad version of their textbook, and so they converted all of their stuff over to the Sage Cell server, embedded straight into the HTML. This will be used at Hood College in the fall. One of our test people is the Hood College person that's going to be here in a few days, and they'll be working with us to implement the Sage Cell server and calculus textbooks in the fall. So last year, Alex Kramer, Ira Hansen, and I sort of have this. There's a lot of things that we learned, and more importantly, or just as importantly, the IPython project. We were basing a lot of our communication protocol and architecture on the new IPython project, and that matured and was released, and they fixed a lot of bugs and matured more, etc. And it's to the state now where we're taking their architecture and revamping, sort of redoing the entire back-end architecture of this to much more efficiently use their code, so that we don't, cutting out a huge swath of code that we wrote and use their code instead, which will make things a lot more scalable, a lot more interactive and quick for the user, and just as secure, we hope. So that's our project for this fall, or this summer, is to rewrite the backend to make it a lot more scalable and cut down on the code quite a bit. And apparently, can you give me an update, Stephen, on do we have a demo working yet, or? Okay. So Ira Hansen and Stephen Johnson and Alex Kramer have been working on this quite a bit, and hopefully by the end of the week at least we'll have a demo of the new architecture working. Sort of where we're at with this. We'd like to eventually transition. We rewrote Interact implementation when we did the cell server, and so we would like to transition that back into the Sage Notebook. I guess I should mention two other applications. So that the iOS iPod app uses the Sage Shell server, and the Android app uses the Sage Shell server. It misuses it right now. Uses it, but then we switched the protocol, and so it hasn't been updated yet. So there's a brief overview of the Sage Shell server. And in fact, we can, I'm curious. So a lot of the traffic to the Sage Shell server actually has not come through directly through Aleph, but we can ask about what the traffic is right at Aleph.
What do you mean has not come through?
So the point is that the Google does not, these Google statistics don't track embedding Sage Shell into other pages and things. It just tracks if you come directly to Aleph and start running calculations.
Do you track?
No, we don't track it. It would be easy for us to track it, right?
Start tracking.
So somebody just needs to write the code to start logging things. I mean, in a sense, I track it in the sense that I save all command inputs and outputs. Well, periodically I delete outputs, but I save all command inputs in the time.
How many inputs have it put in?
If you want, I can find out in a few seconds. Give me a second, and I can find that out. But here's the visits to Aleph. So not very much. It's sort of in an experimental stage. This is the hourly visits, actually. Let's do it daily, which to give us a better idea, I guess. So daily visits in the 50-ish range, something like that.
Are there other ways to communicate with that service other than the JavaScript?
Yes. So I mean, it is a web service. You can just send JSON to the URL and get JSON back. So
That's really just what the JavaScript's doing.
yeah,
So the JavaScript
exactly.
is just
That's right. JavaScript is just one front end. The iOS app is another front end. The Android app is another front end, etc. Yep. Yep. Exactly. The plan long term is to be a web service in a sense like that. Why do you say no?
But surely you should also run the Socket.io version.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things, right? So it's sending JSON through Socket.io instead of polling. Sure. But the long term is to be able to send messages, to execute this stuff, and get the results back. And the implementation of how that's transported, et cetera, is changing. But that's the basic architecture. Great. Other questions? So I guess one other place this has been used, and I'm sort of stealing Byron's thunder here. I hope during maybe EduDays you can give a 15-minute preview. Another place this is being used, I'll just point it out here, is the new Sage snippet database. Is it up right now, Byron? Okay, it says waiting. Here we are. Yes. So this lets you see. Is there any new stuff in here? There's one post in here. Yes. So it lets people easily create Sage snippets, like Interact and things like that, and comment on them, etc. Watch Byron's talk for more details. But this is like the wiki Interact pages on steroids. Okay. Other questions? Great. Okay.
Thanks.